Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. In the days following the release of Cyberpunk Edgerunners, there have been a lot of appraisal for the show. So much so that it is now one of the top 10 most critically acclaimed TV shows on Rotten Tomatoes with a critic score of 100% and an audience score of over 97%. This had a snowball effect on the Cyberpunk 2077 game, which led to the highest player count since launch. In this video, I'll be explaining how Cyberpunk Edgerunners saved the Cyberpunk IP, what CDPR said about it, and what it means for the future of this franchise. So let's jump in and see why. On 6 September, CDPR released the much requested and awaited patch 1.6 for Cyberpunk 2077 that not only addressed much of the community's requests, but also added new content to the game as well. These changes were not just limited to the addition of Cyberpunk Edgerunners related content, but also events, side quests, weapons, clothing, and some of the AI improvement actually brought a lot of players back into the game to check out the new update. But it wasn't until Edgerunners aired on Netflix a week later. That changed the perception for many after watching the show. Just a few days after Edgerunners was aired, the critics had already chimed in and gave an overwhelmingly positive reception. A few days after release, the audience too gave their reviews matching that of the critics. The overwhelmingness from critics and viewers led the anime to reach the top 10 most critically acclaimed shows as per the data on websites like Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb, Forbes, and even on Netflix Anime. All of this had an impact on the game, which saw a huge uptick in player count with some new joining to check out the game as well. At one point, over 1 million players were playing the game after the show aired. So what is the reason behind this success? Well, firstly, it's the faithfulness of the creation of anime that takes place in the Night City, the main antagonist of the Cyberpunk 2077 game. Trigger Studios, who claim themselves to be huge fans of the cyberpunk genre, were commissioned by CD Projekt RED to create the anime based in the world of Cyberpunk 2077, with the characters being designed by none other than Yo Yoshinari. This was to ensure that Mike Pondsmith's world-inspired stories takes place within Night City, focusing on both its beauty and perils. You don't want to have Pondsmith's IP set in St. Petersburg or Narnia for obvious reasons. The whole inception of the anime was to narrate story of how people making minimum wage get by in a world dominated by corporates. And in order to survive, people install cheap cyberware implants or steal from the corporates to make a quick buck. The standalone show covers David's and Lucy's journey within 10 episodes. The first episode goes by very quickly, but the next episodes cover his character build-up and then the final episode that concludes his story perfectly. Trigger Studio actually did a fantastic job of animating all the character movements, cybernetics, the hacking interface, the net, all the locations within Night City, and especially the presentation of cyber psychosis. A crucial element of Cyberpunk 2077 that we never got to experience, as the devs said that it wouldn't fit well with the game. This representation of Mike Pondsmith's creation was even approved by the man himself, expressing on Reddit as well, meaning that Rafal Jackie's story narration combined with Trigger Studios' animation helped visualize Mike Pondsmith's characters in Night City just the way he imagined to be. More so, it even pleased the critics and even the audience. So much so that it led to a snowball effect where players jumped into the game to check out the Night City once again. The game had a very rough launch and a very poor reception upon release, but thanks to the Edgerunners anime success, the Cyberpunk IP was saved. Yes, you heard that correctly. The IP, or intellectual property, is the legal owner claimed by an individual or a company that the government recognizes. Shortly after the successful reception of Cyberpunk Edgerunners, CD Projekt RED put out a statement saying that they are fully committed to developing the Cyberpunk IP despite the fact that Cyberpunk 2077 is getting only one expansion. What this means is that there will be more Cyberpunk products from CD Projekt RED on other platforms in the near future. Does that mean CD Projekt RED would change their stance regarding expansion for Cyberpunk 2077? Maybe, maybe not. With the current development now focused on getting the Phantom Liberty expansion out in the first half of 2023, it's unlikely that CDPR would dedicate resources to creating a second expansion, given that a good portion of the team and other studios under CDPR are working on the Unreal Engine 5 based games. But given the success of Edgerunners, this could prompt CDPR to reconsider and perhaps go back to their older promise of releasing the 2 expansions promised pre-launched of Cyberpunk 2077. Unfortunately, this also conflicts with the fact that several teams under CDPR have already started to base their next generation of games on Unreal Engine 5. One of which is the much anticipated Witcher 4, which takes place in the Witcher universe, but with different characters and a new protagonist. As for the Cyberpunk IP, those will be created on other platforms like mobile or even a tabletop RPG by other teams. That way, it will continue to bring revenue to CDPR while they focus on the next big AAA release. Sticking to the revenue, the other reason as to how Edgerunners saved Cyberpunk IP is the economics. For those who don't know much about Cyberpunk genre, spending $60 on a video game sounds too risky, especially with a game that was released in the state that it did. Even buying the game on sale is still a risk. This is a psychological decision that many people unfamiliar with something they are unaccustomed to will think twice before spending money on it. The Edgerunners, which can be watched on Netflix for a subscription fee as low as $10, is a no-brainer for anyone to spend on before making the big move to buying Cyberpunk 2077. While it will not save Cyberpunk from its inevitable doom, what it will do is build up a base for the next big Cyberpunk release. Now, while the focus is to release the next Witcher sometime between 2025 and 2026, it could be until 2030 at the very least before we see the next big AAA Cyberpunk game from CD Projekt RED. It could be a sequel to Cyberpunk 2077, or it could be a faithful recreation of Cyberpunk 2020 pen and paper RPG. Only time will tell. And that's all there is for this video. Let me know in the comments about what you think, how and when the next Cyberpunk game will come out, and if you'd be interested in buying Cyberpunk products other than the main game. Personally, I think that the damage has already been done, but given the work they put into the game and the player count increasing despite the PR and release disaster, there could still be a slim chance Cyberpunk 2077 could still get a second expansion. And that's pretty much all there is that I have to say on this topic. Make sure to like, share and subscribe to my channel for more Cyberpunk related content like this. Thanks for watching, take care and bye bye.